The market continues to climb, but oddly, I made the majority of my money today off of shorting the market. I was holding some stocks that I have puts on that have been falling. They are going against the grain of the up market. One of them is Palantir. The shareholders are getting absolutely punished. The other one was CRM. Palantir gave us altogether, from the time I alerted it in the Discord, it gave us a 310% profit as it's continued to flush. I'm highlighting it now because there are winners and losers in an environment where we want to be watching this concept called relative strength. I've got a special guest on, I'm going to bring on here in just a moment, who's joining me for this show because he picked a particular play that's been showing a ton of dominance and a ton of relative strength. And it's ripped higher. It's got what looks to be almost like a God candle. It does lack some volume, which is the same thing that a lot of the up moves aren't giving us. We want to see price and volume both go up because when you see that, you get direction. But I'm going to bring him on. We're going to talk about where that particular stock can go, why he chose it. But the reason he chose it is because it was showing relative strength. So we've got winners and losers right now. And two stocks that I made the majority of my profits on today, I made them holding puts over the last couple of days, and they went from being up 100% in profit, 200% in profit, and then Palantir got above 300% in profit. So there is plenty of money right now being made. The bears and the bulls are getting fed simultaneously, but of course, everybody's trying to figure out where the market's going to go overall. I'm going to highlight something in the SPY that I think you're going to want to see because it's going to tell you about the range that we got to today and what might happen next, even though that is going to appear a little bit bearish. And I'm going to be putting out these warnings about what we need to watch. It doesn't mean that the markets are going to go down and that we won't continue to melt up. But we look for something called confluence. The idea of confluence when you're charting on Wall Street is when you get everything in alignment, you know it's going to go real well for a long time. And I can tell you with 100% certainty that there is a lack of confluence between price, structure, momentum, and volume. We're getting a couple of those, but not all four of them. So welcome to Wall Street. This is the Stocks with Josh show. I appreciate you guys hitting the like for me. Drop a heart, say hi in the comments. Let me know what stock made you the most money. Was it an up move or a down move? Because both of them are printing right now, as I've mentioned. And I have to shout out a couple different plays in the Discord. Wayner, he showed a 25% increase on his total portfolio in 1 week. And he said, best, period, Discord, period, out there, period. What a week so far. And if you're feeling the FOMO because, you somehow weren't on the right direction, the market was moving, just pump your brakes for a moment, take a step back. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for looking to me for a little bit of direction. I'll do my best for you today, but begin to enter back in. Never turn your back on Wall Street. In my opinion, it's the new American dream. You want to be participating because it is a giant money printer. It's just the hardest way to make that easy money. So let me just pause there. And I appreciate the success that Wayner shared, and we've got a lot of other success stories like that. Of course, I want to quickly shout out the Friendly Screener, which continues to find stocks that are moving both up and down. Money was there to be made on the live runners today. But let me bring my special guest on. We can take a step back and talk about some of the stocks that we're going to cover today. Daniel, welcome to the show, Daniel.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks, Josh.
All right, we're going to burn through this very quickly. I'm going to take a minute. The stock that you're going to talk about for a moment, Daniel, is what?
Is SOXL, which is the 3x leverage semiconductor ETF.
Okay, so this is one that when the markets looked like they could reverse, you just decided to run back to and jump in because you're like, you know what, we're heading to Cash City. I want to be in a fast moving car. Why did you choose SOXL?
Yeah, exactly. Really, for the same reason I think that you were short software this week. Relative strength versus relative weakness. It seems like they've kind of played inverse to some degree. I had not, we'd all talked about the taco trade and preparing for the news and the deadline that was coming up. And I think there was a really big So we talk about capitulation, and we never got capitulation in the actual charts and in the
No,
price,
no.
but I think we got capitulation in the news cycle. The post that came out from our president was, in my opinion, about as capitulatory of a post that you can make. And then basically throughout the day, leading up into the 8 o'clock deadline, there were just seed after seed after seed that was being planted that was just trying so hard to lay the foundation to walk it back. I did not plan on levering into the event with options because it could have really gone either way. But when the Pakistani leadership came out and basically requested the ceasefire, we got an initial 1% or so pop. I was just walking with my wife actually, and I, all the notifications on my phone were going off, and I went and I looked at it to kind of do a little bit of research because it didn't. I mean, it was good, a nice little pop, but it wasn't like a, you know, end of the war jump. And I remember, I think I texted you, and I was like, SOXL, we haven't responded yet. If our administration comes out and likes this, and we don't really just things don't escalate that night. It reminded me a lot of the China news, like the deal to make a deal last year in May, where the news dropped and there was a big pop, and then I mean you really just had to hop onto. I think I played that one with TQQQ, which was the triple leverage Nasdaq, but I knew that the semiconductors had relative strength. They really hadn't broken down. I mean, NVIDIA spent, one day under 170. Without knowing where to go and wanting to jump on something quickly, it was the one that I just defaulted to, relative strength.
I love it. So let me take a little bit of time and go through some charts, and we'll come back and I'll even get Daniel's reaction. Let's go look at that real quick. I want to start off with the SPY. I just want to make a very simple observation, and I don't point out the bearish things because I'm bearish. There's a ton load of money being made riding this wave up and shorting stocks that are just not part of the rally. The most bullish environment that we could be in would be to close Friday out above 680. 680 is a very significant level of resistance. And more specifically, I'd like to see the SPY stay above 675. I want you to imagine this shelf here, okay? And I want you just to visually look at the type of candles that live above this shelf versus the type of candles that live beneath it. And if you see what I see, you ought to see that above this level of 675 to 680, that's where all the dojis live. Bam, 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 bam. That's where all the dojis live. So this is clearly the top half of resistance. We had a beautiful move, a beautiful bounce, but we have to hold this level. And even if we hold this level, this is where the dojis live, and this is typically where the sellers have been camped out. And so we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to break through that? Obviously, we've got to prepare for some resistance there. But part of what prompted me having Daniel on the show today was getting into some of the other stocks I want to show you guys today. Let me pop open SOXL. Now, I want to go a little bit longer time frame for those who are trading SOXL, because I made this comment to Daniel about, where this could possibly go or where it had to go. And I wanted you guys to see that. So if you look at a long-term chart of this on the weekly time frame, I want you to note that this is a base that we got to when we blasted off and made what is currently the highest high and actually the lowest low since 2020. I want you guys to understand how important this defined range is, because that is the lowest low and this is the highest high. And everything else that we've had between that has essentially been inside that move. Now, here's where it gets interesting. So when we came down and lost a lot of this move back in 2022 in that bear market, we actually didn't make a lower low. So this stayed the lowest low. This was a higher low. Now, what's fascinating is that we did it again. This became a higher low. Now, what we have not done is we've not made a higher high. So this remains the highest high. And when we had moved up here, when we failed to make a higher high back here in 2024, when we broke down, that we were then likely to go back and trade the low again. And a lot of people don't understand that because they get caught up, Daniel, in the fundamentals. They think that the stock is being driven fundamentally by news cycles. And yes, those things play a role in what they do. But SOXL might be one of the cleanest examples of a stock moving within a broad range. This is a great tradable asset, and I wanted to highlight it. And I know you made a bucket load of cash on this, right? You're grinning ear to ear on SOXL.
This was a big time trade. Yeah, it was quick fire. I had a lot of cash sitting. I didn't get to deploy the dip like I liked because we didn't get that capitulation. A lot of that cash ended up in SOXL for a quick move.
Okay, here's the change of character on the weekly chart that I want to highlight, okay? I would be worried about this not making an all-time high. If we had failed right here and never made it higher, I would be concerned about coming back and testing the bottom of the range. But because we have already made a higher high locally, that the likelihood that we have to and very likely will test the range between 75 and 80. So I'm just going out on the record saying I don't see reversal here. I see reversal above this between 74 and 80. And I believe that we will actually break above the 2022 high, that this is going to be a definitive moment for SOXL. And I believe that we're going to make a brand new multi-year high. And it wouldn't surprise me if it could happen tomorrow or next week. And I wanted people to see this chart and just, it's a little bit of a charting class, but if you're in SOXL right now, it's actually worth holding. And you know, it's only when it gets above 74 and potentially in that $80 range, we have to see what happens. And you say, well, what are we looking for? You got to look at the volume below, because if it got above that 2021 high and volume took off, so you got a massive volume node with a corresponding breakout candle, well, then it's doing something brand new. What are your thoughts on that, Daniel?
I mean, it's pretty exciting to me. So I took a healthy amount of this, like we mentioned. I locked in half of my position a little bit earlier today, not quite up here at the highs, but I mean, we're coming into what has been historical resistance. It's been a really nice move. We're coming into 680, 683 range on the SPY, where I kind of expect a lot of the easy money was made. But I think with these technicals, I'm pretty excited in holding the other half of my position here a little bit longer, hold our winners longer, relative strength, a lot of the things that you preach in the Stocks with Josh Discord. And so I like it. I'm excited. I love the W pattern. I talk about W patterns a lot in my live trading. It's a really, really big weekly W pattern. And I mean, I don't even want to talk about the measured move on that because it'd be a little ridiculous. But over the long term, I think semiconductors, if you believe that we're in the early stages of this AI rally, if we're in the early stages of this build out, you know, we're in inning 2 or 3 or 4 and not 7, 8 or 9. This thing could play out a W pattern and be, you know, $200 or $300 or $400 stock. It is a triple leveraged semiconductor.
Let me build on what Daniel's saying. So that's an exciting thought on the fundamental side, but we still want to sort of have a check and a balance with the technicals. And we know how to determine if that is going to happen. What he's referring to is that over the long course of time, there's a giant W pattern, which if we were to actually have a huge volume move on the price that jumped above 74, then it would signal that this is really going to run away beyond anyone's expectations, and it's nowhere near time to sell. But if we touch up there and we get a big wick and we begin to fail back below, then we know that it's not time to go long, that folks are locking in profits simply at the top of the range, and they might do a rinse and repeat. I've got a number of stocks I'd love to go over with you guys, but just one more comment on a stock and then one more chart I have to show you. Tesla, okay? Tesla, Palantir, Salesforce, these companies are not doing well right now. And Tesla barely holding up in a strong up move environment tells me it's got to go lower. Now I've done at least 3 shows on Tesla. Here I'm talking about it again today. Long-term investors are waiting for very specific and strategic spots. I talked with you guys about one where it would bounce. It hit that within a dollar, and it did exactly what I said it would do. I said, if it reverses and we go from a red candle to a green candle, we're going to shoot all the way up to 360. We got above 360. And now I'm warning you again. I said, if we roll over and fade and we come back and close beneath 350, we got to go lower. We've gone lower. This is the huge range we've been in. I'll show you the daily candles. We tapped this 339. I told you that we had the opportunity, if we did that, to run up to 360. We got to 363. It rejected. I told you that if we couldn't hold 350, that we would go back and hit 339. We did. And I just want you guys to be watching this level. If we can get back above 350 by Friday, then we're not necessarily flushing. But if we, for some reason, find ourselves closing beneath 339, then I'm expecting another huge leg down on Tesla, down to 322. And that's the next spot that I'd be looking for a bounce reversal. And even though I love this stock and I like to buy it long term, I'm not yet calling buy on Tesla. Okay. The chart's not giving the direction up. It's giving short. It's giving puts right now.
I like Tesla. I like the levels that you gave. I like Tesla long term. And I think, interestingly, Tesla for me always has been more of like a hardware concept. The cars, the robots, the chips. I mean, they have their own chips at this point. I think it's trading like a software stock. And it's probably because of the FSD and things that people think are going to be commoditized, and NVIDIA is now in the space and a lot of companies in the space. I don't think that was ever the bull case for Tesla for me. I think the bull case is hardware, and it's, there were a lot of things coming into this dip that I thought were going to be generational buys. Some of my own personal picks we won't get into here. I didn't think Tesla was going to be the generational buy from this dip. We get down in there in the high twos, and it may end up being.
Oh yeah, well, I can tell you that if we get down in the high twos, I could put quite a bit on it. I'd be excited to do it. In my mind, and I don't think I've ever said this on YouTube before, but I truly view Tesla like the new Apple. Apple dominated, software and hardware, that beautiful marriage between two things, and they dominated the market with the largest market cap for, well over a decade. And the only company that I think is truly delivering the level of beautiful products, hardware that nobody else is doing or can do. And people will talk about Waymo and all these different things, and I get that. But I'm talking about the larger market share of the American audience, combined with the software, as you mentioned, with a true on-ramp to growth with robots and putting chips in space. I mean, this guy is doing a lot, and I do believe that we could see Tesla as the largest market cap company in the world. And, it'll be for those who really believed in the story over a long period of time. If you've been a Tesla buyer with me since the time I started talking on YouTube, you're way up. We're up hundreds of percentage points on everything we bought along the way. And so, yes, if we could dip slightly beneath 300, for me, it would be another load the boat opportunity. We'll see if we get there. My first target down would be 322. And if we don't bounce hard on 322, then yes, I would expect some crazy environment in which we skimmed beneath it pre and post market, and it would be a huge buying opportunity. 2 more minutes for MU. Let me jump into that chart. I want you to take a broader look at MU and understand that we really have a very, very well-defined top, and we have a very, very well-defined bottom range, okay? And there's a couple wicks that got above or beneath that range, but that really is the broader range. And I also want you to see that we dipped below and we got back within the range last week. And this thing has shot up right up to the top. And on top of it, we've got a bald candle, just like SOXL, right? Beautiful bald candle means that there's no wick on the top, which means there's yet to be any selling pressure. We're very much setting up this same way that this candle set up. When we got to the bottom of the range, we bounced off the bottom, which had been previously defined right here. We got up 3/4 of the way through the top of the range, and the next candle got us to the top. And so I just wanted people to understand that on the MU trade, this current setup, If we close anywhere near 418 on Friday, so anywhere near the current range that we're in, if we close out Friday, I am expecting a move up all the way back to the top of this range, which is 445. So you guys have been given a lot of gems. I always enjoy having Daniel on the show. He is one of my crown traders in the Stocks with Josh Discord, providing guidance and live trading. He is the king of the power hour between 3 and 4 in the Discord. He trades along people, sharing with them his ins and outs and helping people make some money. If you would like to trade with someone and not trade by yourself, you can come join the Stocks with Josh Discord and spend some time with Daniel. Peace and blessings, my friends. Hit that like and subscribe, and come check out the Stocks with Josh Discord. Talk to you later. Thank you, Daniel.